Hey everyone! Welcome back to Alien Love Stories, the place where romance meets cosmic chaos. Ever had a simple misunderstanding turn your kitchen appliance into a sacred altar? No? Well, that's exactly what happened to me when my alien girlfriend mistook my dishwasher for a ritual sacrifice chamber. Grab some popcorn, settle in, and let's dive right into this sparkling clean mess of a love story. It was supposed to be the perfect evening. Candles flickered gently on the dinner table, casting a warm, romantic glow throughout the kitchen. I, Max Carter, an average guy who loved quiet nights and Netflix marathons, was preparing to impress Lyra, my gorgeous, slightly mysterious alien girlfriend. Lyra wasn't your typical girl-next-door type, mostly because she wasn't from Earth at all. She stood a striking 5'9", with shimmering turquoise skin that sparkled faintly like polished aquamarine. Her wavy silver hair drifted softly around her shoulders as if gravity didn't quite know how to handle it. Two small, translucent horns curved gracefully back from her forehead, glowing subtly purple whenever she was excited. A slender, cat-like tail, ending in a delicate, heart-shaped tip, swayed gently behind her with every step. Tonight she wore her favorite shimmering violet dress, tight-fitting, sleek, and reflecting tiny silvery flecks of starlight whenever she moved. Draped loosely around her shoulders was a transparent mist-like cloak that seemed to float softly, making her look like a walking dream. "Max, this is so wonderful!" Lyra exclaimed, clapping her slender hands together in delight. Her eyes, a vibrant shade of amethyst, sparkled joyously. "I have read extensively about human dates. This setting is very culturally accurate." I laughed softly, setting down the plates of spaghetti I'd spent far too long preparing. "Glad you like it. I figured we'd keep things simple. Just dinner? Nothing complicated." Lyra nodded enthusiastically, her horns glowing faintly brighter. "This food, it symbolizes your Earth's romantic intentions, correct?" "It symbolizes that I spent 40 minutes figuring out how not to overcook spaghetti," I joked. She tilted her head thoughtfully. 40 Earth minutes? Impressive dedication. On my planet, meals are prepared instantly through quantum molecular resonance. "Sounds tasty and convenient," I chuckled. Lyra carefully twirled spaghetti onto her fork, tasting it tentatively. Her eyes widened with delight. "Oh, this is incredible. A successful Earth romantic ritual." We enjoyed the meal, exchanging stories and laughter. Everything was going perfectly, but eventually dinner ended, and it was time for the dishes. Lyra rose elegantly, picking up her plate and looking around uncertainly. "Max, allow me to assist. How do humans typically purify their dining tools?" "You mean, wash the dishes?" "Simple," I explained, gesturing toward the kitchen's stainless steel dishwasher. "We just place them inside and it cleans them automatically." She froze suddenly, eyes locked intensely onto the dishwasher. "Mac, what is that?" "It's a dishwasher," I replied casually, stacking the plates. "Just put dishes in, press the button, and it washes them clean." Lyra's mouth fell open in shock, her eyes widening in awe and reverence. The color of her skin shifted to a brighter turquoise, indicating extreme excitement. "A sacred purification chamber? You place used vessels inside to cleanse them of impurities?" "Well, technically yes, but—" She gasped dramatically, interrupting me. "I have read of these in ancient texts from other civilizations. Chambers used to ritually cleanse sins and purify offerings to the great cosmic order." "Lyra, it's literally just hot water and soap." I tried gently, sensing disaster. But Lyra was already placing the dishes inside carefully, whispering respectful chants under her breath, her horns pulsing purple rhythmically. I watched helplessly as she sprinkled salt and bits of herbs she'd found on my counter into the dishwasher, murmuring with solemn devotion, "Sacred appliance, accept these offerings of earthly nutrients and cleanse them of impurities. We honor you." "Oh boy," I muttered nervously. She looked at me, radiant with joy. "Max, you have unknowingly preserved an ancient galactic ritual. You are truly special." "I'm really not," I protested weakly, but she wasn't listening. Lyra swiftly pulled out her handheld communicator, urgently sending out excited messages to her friends. "This must be shared. Such rituals could unify our people and yours." Before I could intervene, Lyra had already activated the dishwasher, and as it hummed to life, its warm glow filling the kitchen, she bowed her head respectfully. The buzzer sounded moments later, signaling the cycle's completion. Lyra cautiously opened it, lifting out a perfectly clean plate. She gasped, amazed and emotional, tears of gratitude shimmering in her eyes. It's purified, miraculously so. Max, your kitchen holds divine power. I stared blankly at her, half amused, half horrified. This simple misunderstanding was rapidly spiraling out of control. Lyra, listen, I need to explain. But it was too late. A knock at the door interrupted me. Opening it cautiously, I found 3 of Lyra's alien friends, standing solemnly in white ceremonial robes, their eyes wide with reverence. "We have come to witness the miracle of the sacred chamber," one declared solemnly. I glanced nervously over my shoulder at Lyra, who smiled brightly, proudly lifting the gleaming dish for all to see. "Come, friends, behold the holy purification," she announced enthusiastically. As her friends crowded into my small kitchen, bowing reverently toward my innocent dishwasher, I realized with sudden clarity, my simple, quiet life had officially ended, and in its place was a very, very strange new reality. With Lyra, a dishwasher-worshipping alien cult, and a kitchen appliance that was about to become far more famous than I'd ever intended. By morning, my kitchen had transformed into something completely unrecognizable. What had been an ordinary space for cooking and cleaning was now a makeshift temple filled with incense, candles, and several aliens in pristine white robes gathered solemnly around my dishwasher. Lyra stood at the center, her silver hair floating softly around her shoulders, her translucent horns pulsing with gentle violet light, and her turquoise skin shimmering subtly in the morning sunlight that streamed through the kitchen window. Her graceful tail swayed serenely as she addressed the small, eager crowd in front of her. "Beloved friends," she spoke reverently, her voice melodious and gentle. "Last night we discovered a miracle here. This sacred vessel, this dishwasher, is a gift bestowed upon humanity from the cosmic order itself. It cleanses impurities, purifies souls, and brings harmony to this chaotic world." I stood awkwardly in the corner, clutching my coffee mug tightly, watching helplessly as Lyra delivered her speech. Around her stood 3 aliens who had arrived earlier, Lyra's close friends from off-world, each uniquely eccentric in their own way. First was Zarian, tall and slender, his deep emerald skin covered in tiny golden scales that shimmered every time he moved. Zarian was an enthusiast for all things mystical, and right now he looked like a kid who discovered candy for the first time. Next to him was Mookie, a small, round, lavender-skinned alien who hovered gently above the floor. Her enormous eyes blinked slowly, always looking perpetually surprised, and she murmured softly to herself in quiet awe. And then there was Zolt, muscular and imposing, with a deep crimson hue to his leathery skin. 2 massive black horns curved forward dramatically from his forehead, and he looked more like a fierce warrior than someone I'd expect at a ritual dishwasher ceremony. But right now, even he was nodding solemnly along with Lyra's speech. "Lyra, sweetheart," I whispered softly, desperately hoping to pull her aside discreetly. But as soon as the words left my mouth, Zarian stepped dramatically in front of me, his golden scales reflecting brightly. "Ah, the sacred vessel's guardian speaks," Zarian announced loudly. "Tell us, O keeper of the cleansing chamber, what ancient wisdom brought you this miraculous gift?" Amazon Prime," I mumbled awkwardly. "Amazon Prime," Zarian repeated, his voice reverential. He turned solemnly back to the group. "The Prime of Amazon, clearly a cosmic entity of immense power." "No, I mean it's just—" I began to protest, but Mookie floated closer, interrupting me softly. "Please, great Max, guardian of sacred cleanliness," she said sweetly, hovering gently, "bless my humble bowl so that it may be purified by your divine vessel." She held up a simple cereal bowl reverently, and I stared at it blankly, then reluctantly took it from her small, gentle hands. Lyra nodded encouragingly, her eyes bright with pride, clearly pleased I was participating. With a resigned sigh, I opened the dishwasher and placed the bowl carefully inside. Zarian handed me another dish, and then another, until soon the dishwasher was full, loaded ceremonially, while the small crowd watched eagerly. "Now," Lyra said, voice low and respectful, "the guardian shall invoke the sacred chant to begin the ritual." They all stared at me expectantly. Lyra's glowing purple eyes locked on mine, hopeful, trusting. I, activate this sacred vessel," I stammered awkwardly, pressing the start button. The dishwasher hummed to life immediately, its gentle vibration filling the silence of the room. The crowd gasped collectively, eyes wide in awe. Zolt placed a firm hand on my shoulder, nodding solemnly. "Truly, you wield great power." Lyra beamed proudly. "Witness, dear friends, how effortlessly Max commands purification. His humble demeanor hides great cosmic wisdom." I felt my cheeks flush red, torn between embarrassment and the surreal humor of the moment. "It's really not a big deal, guys. It's just soap and hot water." "No," Zolt growled reverently, his deep voice rumbling with conviction. "This is clearly the divine substance known as dish detergent. I have studied ancient human scrolls, Dawn, Palmolive, Cascade, all powerful cleansing elixirs." Mookie whispered softly, her voice filled with wonder. "Do you think this Cascade can cleanse souls as effectively as dishes?" "Perhaps," Zarian pondered, stroking his chin thoughtfully, golden scales sparkling. "But we must not underestimate the sacredness of this ritual. Clearly, Max is the chosen guardian." Lyra stepped closer to me, her delicate tail curling gently around my wrist, her soft gaze meeting mine warmly. "Max, I knew from the moment I met you that you were special, but now to see you become the revered keeper of this sacred artifact, I am filled with pride." I sighed softly, giving her a weak, affectionate smile. "Lyra, we really need to talk about this whole sacred artifact thing." But before I could explain further, the dishwasher beeped melodiously, signaling that the cycle had completed. The entire room held its breath, and then Lyra carefully opened the dishwasher door. Steam billowed dramatically from inside, and she lifted out Mookie's bowl, clean, sparkling, and steaming gently. A hush fell over the room, followed by a joyous gasp. Mookie burst into emotional tears of gratitude, floating upward and spinning happily in midair. Zarian bowed deeply. "A true miracle of cleansing. Max has purified our friend's vessel and possibly her soul." Zolt nodded solemnly, crossing his massive arms. "Indeed, I have never witnessed a more profound spiritual experience." Lyra turned to me, eyes sparkling lovingly. "Max, you have changed our lives. This dishwasher, it is now the sacred heart of a new, powerful faith. We will gather here often, inviting others to witness its divine cleansing." I rubbed my forehead tiredly, knowing things were about to get wildly out of hand. "Lyra, this really isn't—" She silenced me gently with a finger on my lips. "No need for modesty, beloved guardian. You have ushered in a new era." Before I could object further, Zarian had already produced his communicator, enthusiastically sending messages across the galaxy. "Brothers and sisters of the cosmos," Zarian declared dramatically, voice echoing loudly, "we have discovered a sacred earthly artifact. Come witness the glorious dishwasher, the purifier of souls under the watchful guardianship of Max, keeper of the cleansing chamber." As excited replies began flooding in from across the stars, I glanced helplessly at Lyra. She smiled affectionately, oblivious to my panic. "Together," she whispered warmly, squeezing my hand gently, "we shall purify the universe." And as the dishwasher gently hummed again, somehow sounding triumphant this time, I realized with dawning horror mixed with reluctant amusement that my kitchen was about to become the strangest spiritual pilgrimage site in the galaxy. Within days, my small apartment kitchen had inexplicably transformed into a bustling sanctuary for intergalactic pilgrims. News of the miraculous dishwasher had spread across alien social networks faster than cat videos. Now daily, various aliens lined up respectfully in my living room, holding dirty bowls, spoons, and cups with hopeful, reverent expressions. Lyra had seamlessly slipped into her newfound role as the high priestess of dishwashing liquid. She now wore elegant ceremonial robes woven from a shimmering white fabric, embroidered with silver threads that resembled soap bubbles. Her translucent horns glowed perpetually with soft lavender light, and her ethereal, misty cloak billowed gently around her, giving her the appearance of someone perpetually drifting through a dream. "Gather closely, my dear seekers," she addressed today's group gently, her melodious voice full of soothing authority. "Here, within the sacred chamber, your utensils will find purity, your dishes will shed their sins, and your spoons will become worthy of cosmic harmony." I stood silently in the corner, awkwardly sipping coffee, while the mimickin sat perched curiously on the refrigerator. Lyra's every word captivated her audience. Among them today were three new devotees: a towering alien named Grand, whose rocky skin resembled granite; a delicate bird-like being called Kui, whose vibrant rainbow feathers rustled excitedly; and a gelatinous blob named Squish, who quivered eagerly at the prospect of dishwashing salvation. I glanced around nervously. "Lyra, I really think we should talk about—" Lyra paused her sermon, gracefully raising one turquoise finger toward me. "Max, guardian of the sacred appliance, please. Your modesty is charming, but we are now guiding these souls toward purity. Let us begin." I sighed, reluctantly stepping forward. Lyra handed me a delicate crystal cup, whispering, "Grand's ceremonial vessel. Handle with great care." Grand bowed deeply, his voice deep and rumbling, reverberating gently through the floor. "Guardian Max, this cup has known many sorrows. Coffee stains, tea residue. May you cleanse its spirit." "Yeah, I'll do my best," I mumbled, carefully placing it in the dishwasher. Next, Kui fluttered forward, offering a beautifully carved wooden bowl. "May your sacred machine remove all earthly traces of yesterday's salad," she chirped hopefully. "I can promise nothing less," I replied with a forced smile, placing her bowl alongside Grand's cup. Finally, Squish oozed forward timidly, placing a plastic spoon into my palm. "I offer my spoon, great guardian. It has betrayed me by leaving flavors of soup from days long past. Please restore my trust." I nodded solemnly. "Your spoon shall be cleansed." With the dishwasher loaded, Lyra stepped dramatically forward, raising both hands. "And now the sacred detergent." The group watched breathlessly as she gracefully held up a small green bottle of Cascade dishwasher detergent. "Behold the sacred elixir of purity, the holy nectar of cleanliness. It banishes food particles to the cosmic void and absolves your plates of their guilt." She carefully poured the soap into the dispenser, eyes glistening reverently, and shut the door with respectful gentleness. "Guardian Max," she announced solemnly, "you may initiate the sacred cleansing cycle." Suppressing another sigh, I pressed the start button. The dishwasher hummed gently to life, its familiar whooshing sound now somehow ceremonial in this new context. As the pilgrims waited in reverent silence, Lyra stepped closer, lowering her voice tenderly. "Max, thank you for embracing your divine purpose." "Lyra, seriously, it's just dishes," I whispered helplessly. "We need to stop this before it gets out of hand." She shook her head fondly, patting my shoulder with deep affection. "You underestimate yourself. Destiny rarely calls loudly. It whispers gently through the hum of household appliances." I opened my mouth to protest again, but was interrupted by the sound of the dishwasher completing its cycle. The room filled with quiet anticipation. Lyra opened the machine dramatically, steam billowing outward. She removed Grand's crystal cup first, holding it aloft. The cup sparkled dazzlingly, pristine and flawless. Grand gasped deeply, falling to one knee with heavy gratitude. "I am unworthy of this cleansing." Next came Kui's bowl, clean and gleaming. The bird-like alien chirped joyously, fluttering excitedly around the kitchen. "The salad's shame is gone." Finally, Lyra lifted Squish's plastic spoon, shiny and spotless. Squish quivered happily, small tears of gelatinous joy sliding down its form. "My faith is restored." The pilgrims broke into spontaneous applause, deeply moved by the spectacle of perfectly washed utensils. Lyra bowed gracefully, horns glowing vividly violet. "Remember, dear friends, purity comes from within, and from a carefully measured dose of dishwasher detergent." The pilgrims filed out slowly, holding their purified dishes like precious treasures. I exhaled heavily, relieved the ceremony had ended. But just as the last devotee departed, another knock sounded at the door, this one louder, firmer, and distinctly less reverent. I opened it cautiously, immediately confronted by a tall, imposing alien, clad entirely in black armor, his crimson eyes blazing with hostility. Beside him stood two small creatures resembling angry, walking lumps of spoiled leftovers. "I am Lord Crust," he growled menacingly. "Your so-called cleansing rituals offend the natural order of decay and disorder. I come to destroy your fraudulent, sacred chamber." Lyra stepped forward bravely, horns glowing defiantly. "Our chamber brings purity. We do not fear your corruption, Lord Crust." He smirked coldly. "Then prepare yourselves. My minions, the Crumbles, will reduce your kitchen to its rightful chaos." The small Crumbles snarled aggressively, bits of spoiled food dripping from their twisted mouths. I glanced desperately toward Lyra, who stood tall, fiercely protective, her translucent cloak billowing dramatically around her. "Max," she whispered urgently, gripping my hand tightly, "the sacred dishwasher must be defended." As Lord Crust laughed darkly, commanding his minions forward, I realized two things simultaneously. First, my ordinary life was officially over, and second, I was about to wage an epic battle for the fate of kitchen hygiene itself. Before I had the chance to fully process the absurdity of my situation, my once peaceful kitchen exploded into chaos. Lord Crust stood in the doorway, tall and imposing, with dark armor that resembled charred metal and eyes burning like fiery coals. Behind him, the Crumbles, tiny, grotesque creatures formed from moldy bread crusts, wilted lettuce, and congealed sauce, giggled maliciously, leaving trails of grease and spoiled gravy on my floor. Lyra stepped forward bravely, her glowing horns shining fiercely, her tail flicking anxiously. "You are not welcome here, Lord Crust. This sanctuary belongs to purity, cleanliness, and the sacred appliance." Lord Crust laughed, a harsh, grating sound like metal scraping stone. "Purity? Cleanliness? How absurd. True power lies in disorder, filth, and chaos. Your rituals defy the natural order, and I intend to restore balance." He raised one hand dramatically, signaling the Crumbles. "My minions, unleash chaos." Instantly, the small creatures surged forward, bounding into cabinets, leaping onto countertops, and hurling my carefully cleaned utensils onto the floor. One of them, particularly rotten and dripping spoiled mayonnaise, climbed atop the refrigerator and knocked over a bag of flour, laughing maniacally. "Stop them!" Lyra shouted urgently. "Protect the sacred dishwasher!" Lyra's friends jumped into action. Grand, the massive granite alien, grabbed two Crumbles by their sticky backs, lifting them effortlessly and flinging them out of the open kitchen window. Kui flapped her colorful wings furiously, creating gusts of wind that knocked several Crumbles off balance, scattering them across the kitchen tiles. Squish, meanwhile, courageously enveloped a Crumble into its gelatinous body, trapping the creature safely inside a clear, trembling bubble. As chaos unfolded, Lord Crust himself moved deliberately toward my dishwasher, a cruel smile stretching across his twisted features. "Your misguided appliance worship ends now, Guardian Max." Panicked, I stood between him and the dishwasher, heart pounding. "Wait, can't we talk about this? It's literally just a dishwasher." Lord Crust narrowed his eyes menacingly. "It symbolizes your dangerous obsession with purity. Its destruction is necessary." "Not today, villain!" Lyra suddenly shouted, leaping forward gracefully, her silver hair floating elegantly behind her. She wielded a bottle of dish soap like a warrior's sword, squirting a stream of thick, blue liquid directly at Lord Crust. He recoiled in disgust, smoke rising from his dark armor where the soap touched. "What foul magic is this?" "Dish soap," Lyra declared triumphantly, brandishing the bottle proudly. "It cleanses filth and corruption, your greatest weakness." Lord Crust growled angrily, stepping back cautiously, but his hesitation was brief. With a roar, he summoned another wave of Crumbles, sending them careening toward us like an avalanche of spoiled leftovers. "Max, we need more soap," Lyra shouted urgently, dodging a Crumble shaped like expired yogurt. Quickly, I grabbed more detergent bottles from under the sink, tossing them to Lyra and her friends. Grange squeezed one bottle fiercely, sending jets of soap streaming across the kitchen. Crumbles howled and hissed, falling back in fear, their spoiled forms dissolving slightly from the powerful cleaning agents. Amidst the madness, I suddenly noticed the Mimikins sitting calmly atop the microwave, observing everything with deep interest, its rainbow fur shifting colors continuously. "Could you maybe help out a bit?" I called desperately. It tilted its head thoughtfully, then nodded. Suddenly, the Mimikin's fur glowed brilliantly, sending out pulses of soothing, emotionally stabilizing energy. The Crumbles halted abruptly, confused by the sudden wave of peacefulness. Their angry snarls softened into confused murmurs. Even Lord Crust seemed momentarily dazed, shaking his head as if clearing away unwanted thoughts. But the calm lasted only a moment, and he quickly recovered his malevolent composure. "Your tricks won't fool me," Lord Crust snarled, advancing menacingly once more, his burning eyes focused on the dishwasher, now unprotected. Lyra gasped, realizing the danger. "Max! The sacred appliance!" Without thinking, I leapt between Lord Crust and the dishwasher again, arms spread wide protectively. "Enough! This kitchen is mine. No more destruction." Lord Crust hesitated, momentarily confused by my unexpected courage. He looked closely at me, sneering mockingly. "You truly believe in this foolishness, Guardian?" I stood firm, glaring defiantly. "No, I just really hate cleaning up messes." Lord Crust chuckled darkly, clearly amused. "Then you chose the wrong battle." Just as he raised his hand again, preparing another attack, the front door suddenly swung open with authoritative force. A tall, slender alien stood there, dressed impeccably in a sharp blue uniform adorned with an official-looking badge. His eyes were large, intelligent, and decidedly annoyed. "Inspector Brokelow," he announced coolly, holding up an identification device. "Intergalactic Department of Food Safety and Hygiene Enforcement. We've received reports of unauthorized rituals involving dishwashers and spoiled food substances." The kitchen froze instantly, everyone turning nervously toward the inspector. Even Lord Crust looked momentarily unsettled. Inspector Brokelow stepped forward slowly, surveying the scene meticulously. Fallen dishes, scattered soap, Crumbles whimpering softly, and Lord Crust standing menacingly near the dishwasher. His expression grew increasingly disapproving. "Well," Inspector Brokelow remarked dryly, "this is certainly a violation of at least 42 interstellar hygiene protocols." Lord Crust straightened defensively. "You misunderstand, Inspector. I'm merely restoring natural entropy." "Entropy involving spoiled mayonnaise monsters?" Brokelow raised an eyebrow skeptically. "Highly irregular, possibly illegal." Lyra quickly approached the inspector, smiling warmly, her eyes wide with sincerity. "Inspector, we're simply performing sacred cleansing rituals using this miraculous earth appliance. Lord Crust is attempting to sabotage our spiritual practices." Inspector Brokelow regarded Lyra thoughtfully, his expression unreadable. "Sacred cleansing rituals involving dishwashers?" Lyra nodded earnestly. "Precisely. It purifies our dishes and spirits." Inspector Brokelow sighed deeply, pinching the bridge of his nose in mild frustration. "This is why I took early retirement from galactic law enforcement." I raised my hand cautiously. "Inspector, can you help us?" He glanced sharply toward me, then sighed again. "I suppose maintaining kitchen hygiene is technically within my jurisdiction. All right, everyone, stand back and allow me to investigate properly." Lord Crust bristled, clearly annoyed. "You'll regret this interference, Inspector." Inspector Brokelow calmly raised a slender device from his belt, pointing it confidently toward Lord Crust. "I highly doubt it. My sanitizer ray eradicates bacteria, mold, and threatening food-based life forms on contact. Would you like to test it?" Lord Crust narrowed his eyes, glaring furiously. "This isn't over, Guardian." In a flash, Lord Crust turned and bolted through the open kitchen window, his surviving Crumbles scurrying desperately after him. Lyra exhaled softly, gripping my hand tightly. "Max, the sacred appliance is safe." Inspector Brokelow looked around again, shaking his head wearily. "This is officially the strangest case of food safety violations I've ever witnessed." I glanced around my once ordinary kitchen, now a battleground between cleanliness and chaos. "Trust me, Inspector. You're not the only one. Inspector Broklow stepped slowly into the kitchen, meticulously assessing the aftermath of Lord Crust's chaotic visit. Scattered utensils, splattered soap, and smears of spoiled food littered the space like evidence of an epic culinary battle. Lyra sighed softly, her silver hair drifting gracefully around her shoulders as she regarded the mess. Her turquoise skin glowed softly with embarrassment. Inspector, I apologize deeply for this disruption. Our rituals have unintentionally attracted some unpleasant elements. Inspector Broklow nodded, his sharp eyes observing every detail. Clearly, the presence of mold-based life forms is never a good sign. Grand, the towering granite alien, stepped forward respectfully. Inspector, we have fought bravely to protect the purity of this kitchen. We trust you will see our intentions were honorable. Broklow gave a reluctant sigh. Yes, well, honorable intentions aside, this kitchen is now a hazardous area. If we don't act quickly, those crumbles could return in greater numbers. Mookie hovered nervously, her round lavender form trembling gently. You mean the moldy mayonnaise monsters will come back? Indeed, Inspector Broklow confirmed grimly. Lord Crust despises cleanliness. He won't let a dishwasher cult succeed so easily. Lyra stepped bravely forward, her translucent horns glowing vibrantly with determination. Then we must prepare. The sacred appliance must not fall into enemy hands. I raised my hand nervously. Or, and this is just an idea, maybe we could just stop using my kitchen as a battleground. Everyone turned toward me, expressions ranging from disappointment to outright confusion. Even Inspector Broklow raised a skeptical eyebrow. No, I mumbled weakly. Okay, guess we're doing this the hard way. Just as I finished speaking, a low, ominous rumble filled the room. Cabinets began to shake gently, dishes rattling anxiously inside. Lyra's eyes widened dramatically. They're already back! With a loud crash, the kitchen window shattered inward. Lord Crust dramatically leapt inside, surrounded by dozens of snarling, slobbering crumbles. He laughed coldly, eyes burning with malice. I told you, this isn't over, Guardian Max. Inspector Broklow calmly drew his sanitizer ray. Stand back, everyone. Leave these hygiene violators to me. Before he could fire, the crumbles surged forward, their sticky, rotting forms rapidly filling the small space. Lyra bravely blocked the dishwasher, wielding twin bottles of dish detergent like sacred swords. You will not defile the sacred chamber. Lord Crust grinned cruelly. Crumbles! Destroy that dishwasher. The crumbles lunged toward Lyra, but she skillfully sprayed detergent streams in all directions. Several crumbles screeched and fell back, dissolving into puddles of harmless sludge. However, their sheer numbers quickly overwhelmed our small defense. Grand roared fiercely, flinging crumbles aside with granite fists, while Qui desperately fanned her wings, sending gusts of air toppling more creatures. Squish bravely swallowed multiple crumbles into his gelatinous body, trapping them safely away. Inspector Broklow fired his sanitizer ray in precise bursts, vaporizing several crumbles instantly. You're violating health codes across multiple galaxies, he shouted angrily. Lord Crust sneered. Your petty rules can't stop chaos, Inspector. Desperate, I ducked beneath flying crumbles and lunged toward the dishwasher, fumbling for the control panel. Lyra saw my intent and called urgently, Max, activate the sacred heavy-duty purification. With trembling hands, I activated the dishwasher's strongest cycle. Immediately, it roared powerfully to life, jets of steaming hot water and soap swirling loudly inside. The crumbles hesitated, disturbed by the powerful cleansing energy radiating from the machine. Lord Crust narrowed his eyes. Destroy it now. Two massive crumbles, each formed from moldy bread and rancid sauce, charged toward the dishwasher. Without thinking, I grabbed a nearby frying pan, swinging wildly. Not today, evil sandwiches! I managed to smack one crumble away, sending it crashing into the wall, splattering harmlessly, but the second creature tackled me to the floor, pinning me beneath its sticky, smelly body. Max! Lyra shouted in panic, quickly moving to help me. She sprayed dish soap directly into the creature's eyes, forcing it to recoil in agony. Inspector Broklow moved swiftly, vaporizing it with his sanitizer ray. He offered me his hand, pulling me to my feet. Impressive combat skills for a civilian. I coughed weakly, accepting the praise. Thanks, I think. Meanwhile, the dishwasher reached its intense cleaning climax, a powerful burst of steam billowing dramatically from its edges. Crumbles shrieked in fear, retreating hastily from the purifying vapors. Lord Crust shielded himself angrily, snarling. "You'll pay for this!" Lyra smiled confidently, her horns pulsing triumphantly. "The sacred appliance is victorious again." Lord Crust glared at her furiously, stepping backward toward the broken window. "You may have won this round, but the forces of dirt and decay cannot be held back forever." With a dramatic flourish, he vanished into the night, his surviving crumbles scrambling frantically after him. The kitchen fell silent again, steam gently dissipating, the dishwasher humming contentedly as it completed its cycle. Lyra exhaled softly, relief washing over her face. The kitchen is safe for now. Inspector Brocklow holstered his sanitizer ray, nodding approvingly. "Excellent teamwork, everyone. This is the most extraordinary violation of hygiene regulations I've ever witnessed, but also, admittedly, one of the most entertaining." Gron chuckled deeply. "Inspector, we appreciate your aid." Inspector Brocklow smiled faintly. "My pleasure. Hygiene enforcement can be monotonous. This was refreshing." I slumped against the counter, exhausted. Lyra gently rested a comforting hand on my shoulder, her eyes warm with gratitude. "Max, you protected the sacred appliance bravely." "Lyra," I sighed softly, smiling weakly, "it's just dishes." She shook her head fondly, leaning closer and kissing my cheek gently. "To you, perhaps, but to us it's become so much more." Inspector Brocklow glanced thoughtfully at the dishwasher. "Regardless, we must fortify our defenses. Lord Crust won't give up easily." Mookie hovered nervously. "Then what do we do?" Lyra straightened resolutely, her horns glowing fiercely. "We prepare. We recruit more believers to protect the sacred appliance. Our numbers must grow to resist the forces of dirt and chaos." I groaned quietly, realizing this strange adventure was far from over. Great. Just what I always wanted. A kitchen full of dishwasher-worshipping aliens. Lyra smiled lovingly, squeezing my hand tenderly. "Don't worry, Max. Together we'll cleanse the galaxy, one dish at a time." And as my dishwasher beeped cheerfully, signaling the successful completion of its sacred cycle, I couldn't help but wonder just how far this bizarre battle between cleanliness and chaos would truly go. After the battle subsided, my apartment was eerily quiet. Inspector Brocklow methodically scanned the wreckage, occasionally muttering something about unprecedented culinary violations and mandatory decontamination. Lyra and the others stood solemnly, watching as he paced around the kitchen, recording notes on a small holographic device. Finally, Inspector Brocklow stopped, turning toward us with a heavy sigh. "Let me be clear. This entire situation is deeply troubling. I've seen restaurants on asteroid colonies with fewer sanitation violations." Lyra stepped forward anxiously, her luminous eyes wide with concern. "Inspector, I promise you, our intentions were always pure. The sacred appliance must be protected, not punished." Inspector Brocklow raised a hand calmly, signaling for her to pause. "I understand your devotion, High Priestess Lyra. However, this has become an interstellar health hazard. Mold-based villains, spontaneous rituals involving dish soap, this cannot continue unchecked." Gron cleared his throat respectfully, his granite face contrite. "Inspector, we will do everything required to meet your hygiene standards." Brocklow nodded approvingly. "Good. Then you won't object if I remain here for further inspection and monitoring." "Wait, remain here?" I asked nervously. "You mean in my apartment?" Brocklow glanced at me, expression serious. "Yes, Guardian Max. This is ground zero for a potential intergalactic outbreak of mold monsters and fanatical appliance worship. Your cooperation is mandatory." Lyra smiled warmly, squeezing my hand reassuringly. "Max, think positively. The inspector's expertise will surely enhance our sacred kitchen rituals." I forced a weak smile. "Exactly what I was thinking. Inspector, feel free to make yourself comfortable. Inspector Brocklow seemed satisfied, nodding briskly. Excellent. Now, to minimize further threats, I'll be conducting daily sanitation checks and hygiene briefings. Mookie hovered closer, timidly hopeful. Does this mean our sacred chamber rituals can continue? Brocklow paused thoughtfully. As long as you follow my guidelines and keep moldy criminals like Lord Crust out, your rituals may continue. Lyra's eyes lit up joyfully, her horns glowing brightly. Wonderful news, thank you, Inspector. Brocklow's expression softened slightly. Just keep things clean. As everyone dispersed to start cleaning up, I pulled Lyra gently aside. Lyra, are we really sure about this? Having a hygiene inspector live with us feels like asking for trouble. Lyra's gaze softened, her silvery hair drifting gently around her shoulders. Max, I know this has been overwhelming, but think of the greater good. Our appliance rituals have inspired countless aliens to embrace cleanliness and order. I sighed softly, shaking my head fondly. I guess when you put it that way, it does sound oddly noble. Lyra leaned in tenderly, brushing her soft lips against my cheek. Exactly, we are not just cleaning dishes, we're cleansing hearts and minds. I laughed despite myself, shaking my head. Okay, fine. Let's just hope Lord Crust stays far away. From across the kitchen, Inspector Brocklow called out firmly, Guardian Max, High Priestess Lyra, please join me immediately. We must discuss dishwashing protocol. Exchanging a resigned glance, Lyra and I approached Brocklow, who stood beside the dishwasher, holding up a detailed holographic chart. Now, he explained seriously, the key to preventing further crumble incursions is maximizing your dishwasher's efficiency. First, always select the highest temperature setting. Lyra nodded respectfully, taking notes. The sacred heavy-duty purification. Got it? Brocklow continued calmly. Precisely. Second, increase detergent concentration by 15%. Third, I recommend pre-rinsing dishes thoroughly to avoid residue buildup. I raised my hand tentatively. Inspector, isn't this just normal dishwashing? Brocklow gave me a stern look. Guardian Max, cleanliness is never just normal. It's our greatest defense against mold villains. Of course, I muttered sheepishly. Just then, another knock came at the door. Everyone froze, eyes nervously darting toward the entrance. Inspector Brocklow stepped forward cautiously. Who is it? A small voice replied gently through the door. I heard this was the Temple of Purification. Is it true that the sacred appliance cleanses not only dishes, but troubled souls? Lyra smiled softly, stepping forward gracefully and opening the door. A small, shy alien stood there, a delicate being with pale pink fur and enormous, watery eyes. My name is Pip, she whispered nervously. Can you help me? Lyra gently extended her hand, guiding Pip into the kitchen. Of course, dear one. The sacred chamber welcomes all who seek cleansing. I glanced at Inspector Brocklow nervously, worried about his reaction. To my surprise, he simply sighed softly and shook his head with resigned amusement. I suppose dishwashing as spiritual therapy is harmless enough, as long as it meets sanitation standards. Pip's eyes filled with hopeful tears. Thank you. My people have long suffered from dishwashing-related anxieties. Lyra placed a gentle hand on Pip's shoulder. Fear not, child. Here, dishes bring peace, not anxiety. Inspector Brocklow gave me a faintly amused look. Guardian Max, it seems your kitchen has officially become an intergalactic counseling center. I exhaled softly, smiling weakly. Apparently. From the corner, the mimickin quietly observed everything, its rainbow-colored fur shimmering warmly. It tilted its head curiously, as if amused by our strange new reality. As Lyra and Pip moved toward the dishwasher, softly chanting purification mantras, I watched quietly, strangely touched by their sincerity. This unexpected chaos had indeed turned my ordinary life upside down, but perhaps Lyra was right. There was something comforting about washing away life's messes, both literal and emotional. Inspector Brocklow stood beside me, observing thoughtfully.